Are you thinking about putting your home up for sale, but you're unsure where to start? Are you curious what you should or shouldn't do so that you don't waste a lot of time and money needlessly? Think carefully, because there are a lot of things that you just don't have to do in order to sell your home quickly and easily. My name is Ryan Gillard. I'm a local realtor here in Calgary with Real Broker, and this video is all about how to prepare your home for sale. Now, it may seem like a daunting task, but with a few simple steps, you can increase the chances of attracting potential buyers and getting your home sold for top dollar. From decluttering and staging to minor repairs and fixes, I'll share with you my top tips to make sure your home stands out amongst the competition. So if you're thinking about selling, you're going to want to stick around. Now, if you're watching this video and you could use some help, you know what to do. All of my information is in the written description below. You can call, text, email, or comment, and I'll get it. I'd love to help you out. So let's get into it. Let's talk about how to prepare your home for sale. All right, so let's get into it here. And first things first, let's start off with the things that you probably don't have to do in order to prepare your home for sale. Now, the one idea that I think is 100% true is there are no half measures. So if you're gonna do something in terms of like renovating, upgrading, or fixing, make sure it's done 100% right, or don't even do it at all, because the buyer may think, well, what else did the seller take a shortcut on? Let's talk about the kitchen now. This is a big item. A lot of sellers think they need to, overhaul the property and put in a brand new kitchen in order to sell the property. Now, this goes back to the half measures idea. Like if you have like a 1980s property and you put in a brand new kitchen, but everything else is still old, I don't think you're gonna get a huge amount of money back. At the best of times, I think a brand new kitchen, you only get half the money back. Again, back to the half measures idea. If you have like a 90s orange oak kitchen and you put in like quartz counters, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Like if there are two identical homes that are for sale, but one has quartz and the other one doesn't, I don't think the price is going to be that much different at all. There are some things that you can do in the kitchen, like you could put in new stainless steel appliances, you can refinish the cabinets, the knobs, you can paint and clean up, but I wouldn't be like overhauling the kitchen and installing a brand new one just to sell your property. I think it would be a waste of money for the most part. Let's talk about bathrooms now, and this is a similar idea as the kitchen in that if you put in a new bathroom, maybe you'll get half your money back. And again, no half measures. If you're gonna do something, make sure it's done all the way or not at all. For example, like the previous example, if you have like an 80s or a 90s property, but you have a brand new bathroom in there, I can't see buyers offering that much more than similar homes that are on the market that maybe don't have a brand new bathroom. And for big renovation projects like this, like the kitchen, the basement, bathrooms, you really have to buy it at the right price, or most of the time it doesn't make that much sense. In terms of flooring, now this is the same idea as the kitchen and the bathrooms. Like I wouldn't spend a lot of money on it. Again, I see a lot of properties, and I'll go into like a condo from the 70s or the 80s. It has brand new flooring, but everything else is still very dated. And I don't see a lot of buyers offering a huge amount more than the competition that doesn't have new flooring. So you might spend a lot of money on it and it won't make that much of a difference. And if you do change the flooring, maybe the buyer moves in and they change it to what they want. Like maybe you put in hardwood, but they wanted carpet. So you could be wasting your money, and I don't think it'll make that much of a difference. Now, if you absolutely have to do something in terms of flooring to sell the property, you might want to look at carpet. It is pretty inexpensive. And again, the buyer might just change it out when they move in. So I wouldn't be dropping a huge amount of money in terms of flooring. All right, the next item that I probably wouldn't do too much about is poly B plumbing, which might sound a bit controversial. So if you're unsure what this is the grayish type plumbing used from like 1980 to 2000, and apparently it's prone to leaks. Now I meet a lot of sellers and I come across a lot of homes that have poly B plumbing, and for the most part, I haven't heard of too many issues from the people that I'm talking to. And there must be hundreds of thousands of homes in Alberta that have poly B plumbing. And you don't hear that much about any issues as far as I can tell. But if you, there are ads on the radio by plumbing companies. So if you have poly B plumbing, you need to get rid of it immediately. I think these companies are trying to make money, obviously. Home inspectors bring this up, like, oh my goodness, it has poly B plumbing, and it scares the buyer. And deals can collapse over this. So if I had this in my property, I wouldn't upgrade it. I think if you had two identical properties, one has poly B plumbing and it's $500,000, and one is the same property at $500,000 but has upgraded plumbing, I don't see buyers offering any more for the one that has upgraded plumbing. And it might cost you a lot of money. But what I would do is I would disclose on the MLS information form, hey, this property has poly B plumbing, and be upfront with it so you can diffuse any situation before it even begins. What you don't want to happen is if you take an offer, so you're conditionally sold, the buyer finds out it has poly B plumbing, and I've had plenty of deals collapse over this. So you want to avoid that entire situation. Just be upfront about it. If they're concerned about poly B plumbing, then filter them out from the very start so they don't even see the property and get themselves under contract and take your home off the market for 2 weeks or so. So it's not something that I would fix necessarily, unless you know about like an actual problem with it. But for the most part, I think it's a bit of a scam in my opinion, which might be a bit controversial. But I would disclose it, but I probably would not do much about fixing it unless there are known issues. All right, so let's talk about finishing your basement. Now, I would only do this if you intend to use the property for your own pleasure. I wouldn't be doing it necessarily for resale value. I used to have this ratio that lasted me for years and years, that it was about $40 per square foot, and then you get half of your money back when you try to sell the property. Now with COVID pricing, nothing makes sense anymore, and these ratios are all out to lunch now. So I actually did run a test in Carrington, Calgary, which is a brand new area in north central Calgary. And I compared the same property, like 2-story, 2,000 square feet, the same age. Everything as similar as possible. And the property that had the finished basement, it sold for about $30,000 more than the unfinished one, which sounds about right. But nowadays with the COVID pricing, I've heard estimates from people out there that it costs like $50,000 to $60,000 to finish a basement. Now every builder and renovator is different, but I as a seller, I would not be finishing that basement for $60K and only getting back $30K. I think it'd be a waste of time and money. All right, moving along, let's talk about, I'm actually going to lump these three together. So the furnace, the hot water tank, and windows. Now it's the similar idea as poly B piping, in that these can be flash points for a lot of buyers out there. So let's start with the furnace first. So what's happening is that a lot of times the buyer will do a home inspection, and the home inspector will say, oh my God, the furnace is 20 years old, budget for a new one. And the buyer takes that as, I need to buy a new furnace tomorrow. And some deals can collapse over this. I've had it happen many times. So if you're a seller, I wouldn't be putting in a brand new furnace, but what I would be doing is disclosing it right up front on the MLS information form. Hey, the furnace is original, or it's 20 years old, but we service it regularly. Consider having the reports right on the kitchen counter or in the supplements on the MLS listing online, or even sticking it right to the furnace so that you can tell anybody, hey, the furnace is 20 years old, but we service it regularly. Here's the report made by an expert that our furnace is in fine working condition, because the home inspector will always scare the buyer. So you want to diffuse this before it even becomes an issue. Same idea with the hot water tank. Consider getting it serviced, keeping a record of it. If you have to get a new hot water tank, they're not super expensive, so it's not the end of the world, but the same idea as the furnace. The windows, again, these are super expensive, and if the buyer doesn't really look at this during the first visit, the deals can collapse, because maybe it's a first-time home buyer and all their money is for their down payment, and now they need to fix the furnace, the windows, and whatnot. So the deals can collapse for this reason. So again, you want to disclose up front, hey, the windows are original, just so it doesn't become an issue down the road and it costs you time and money, and delaying your home sale and tying your home up for 2 weeks just for it to fall apart. It's not a fun experience. So if you can be upfront with people, it'll save you some time and money. Now, if you do fix all these items, don't expect your home value to go up radically. Again, if you have two identical properties, one has new windows, a furnace, and a hot water tank, and the other, they're all original, I don't see the buyers offering any more for that, to be honest. They just kind of expect that it's in fine working condition, but they're not offering more money because of that. So I wouldn't be spending a lot of money on this to sell your property, but I would be upfront with people just so that you can save yourself some time and money. Moving along, let's talk about the things that you probably should do now. So in terms of the exterior, painting is the easiest and best use of your time and money and adds the most value. So I would definitely consider painting the exterior, the trim, the front door. I would update the lighting in the entryway, make sure it's clean and tidy, make sure you can see the house numbers, or maybe even get new house numbers. In terms of siding, if you can fix or repair any kind of panels or any kind of issues that with the siding, I would definitely do so. In terms of paint, pastel colors were big in the 90s, so they haven't aged all that well, like those peachy type colors. And I would definitely look at painting that if possible. They haven't aged all that well, and buyers don't seem to like it. So I would definitely consider painting that. In terms of vinyl siding, which is also very popular in Calgary, it doesn't age all that well, so I would consider pressure washing that. Pressure washing the driveway as well can make a big difference. You just want to make it as clean and tidy as possible. And again, back to vinyl siding, if you can see any kind of holes or missing panels, I would definitely consider getting those repaired or replaced if possible. You're going to want to make sure that you can actually see the home. So consider trimming the hedges and bushes, cutting the trees back. Make sure the trees aren't rubbing against the roof or the siding. That'll pop up in a home inspection report. So just diffuse that before it becomes an issue. Obviously cut the grass, water the grass, de-weed, get rid of any kind of lawn ornaments. Again, you want to make the home look as neutral and as buyer friendly as possible, so they can see themselves living in the home versus how you are. Just little items like that, common sense items regarding the exterior. Let's talk about the roof now. The roof is another one of those major flashpoint items. Many transactions can fall apart because of the roof. If you think about it from the buyer's perspective, say they're a first-time home buyer, all of their money is directed towards the down payment, and they didn't really think too much to look at the roof before they made the offer. They do the home inspection, and the roof is near its end of its life. A lot of transactions can fall apart because of this. So you don't want that to happen because it ties your home up. It takes away the busiest time of the listing, which is the first week. So it can be a bit of an annoying problem for the seller. So what you want to do, and there are a few options, is you can, again, disclose it right up front like we did with the furnace. Hey, the roof is 30 years old. It's near the end of its life. Let the buyer know up front. So it's not going to cause a problem later on. Or you could fix it. It's up to you. If you do decide to fix it, don't expect the value of your home to go up radically, if at all. Again, buyers just assume that it's in good working condition, but they're not offering more money because of it, generally speaking. I've also had the talks with sellers where they know it might be a problem and they're okay with it, and they're okay renegotiating after a home inspection. So some sellers are like that. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to spend money on fixing it. And they put the onus on the buyer, because some buyers won't say anything after a home inspection and some will make a big deal out of it. So if you are a seller and you're okay at your sale price and maybe coming down a little bit, depending on what the buyer says, you can renegotiate after a home inspection. So it's up to the seller, basically, if they're okay with that. But again, if you are upfront with people, you can diffuse these situations before they start. So the last point on the roof, it's one of those items that you could do, definitely. It'll help save a transaction potentially. And it's also one of those things that you don't really have to do as long as you disclose. So it's definitely up to the seller how they want to handle it. Now, the last point before moving into the interior is the exterior foundation cracks in the concrete. So concrete always cracks, and most homes always have some of these little tiny hairline cracks in the foundation. I've lost deals because of this, and it can freak buyers out. So I would definitely look at getting someone in to look at these and possibly repairing them. It can save you some headache down the road, and I don't believe it's all that difficult or expensive for the most part to fix these. So it's one of those items I would definitely put on the list before it becomes an issue down the road. Okay, so now moving inside the property. Now the big items here are cleaning, decluttering, painting, and staging. Now a lot of these items are common sense, so I'll just touch on them briefly, and I'll start with cleaning. So basically think of it as like the royal family was coming over for dinner and you want to impress them. So you want to make sure it's immaculate, pay special attention to like the bathrooms and the kitchen. Now, if you don't like cleaning, you just hire someone to do it. It's not ultra expensive to hire a cleaner. And a cleaner home is definitely easier to sell than a messy one. And one last point on cleaning. If you have a property that's like a project, maybe it's in original condition from like the 70s or the 80s, I would still consider having it cleaned. By a professional, preferably. If you've got two properties and both are similar, but one is a complete, just like it's nasty, and one is cleaned up and tidy, it's still easier to sell that property. So it might sell faster and you might get a little bit more money as well. So I would still definitely consider cleaning it, even if it's like a renovation project. I still think it has some value to do that. So let's talk about painting. So it's similar to the exterior, where the painting is one of the most important things that you can do. It makes the best first impression. It's cheap, but it adds the most value to your home. And so I would consider going with neutral colors or variants of it. If you've got some flashy colors like oranges, greens and stuff like that, consider painting it. Those bold colors distract the buyer from seeing the potential in those rooms. So again, it's not super costly to paint, but it does add the most value. So let's talk about smells and odors now. Now, if your home smells, I can't sell it. And it's 100% true. Like, I have almost thrown up on listing appointments, and I was just happy to get out of there without even taking the listing. On the buying end, I've walked right into a property and I've had buyers just shake their head. Nope. And we walked right out of there. So the biggest culprits are like strong cooking smells, pet odors, and probably the biggest one is cigarette smoke. If you're smoking in your home, good luck selling it to a non-smoker. Like, I personally would never consider it. So you got to look into stuff like that. There are machines called ozonators that you can rent that help eliminate the smells. But yeah, those are the biggest culprits, and it can make a huge difference. Like, if it reeks, you're not going to sell it. And if you do, it's going to be for like a big price drop, most likely. Moving along, you're going to want to fix or repair anything that you notice that's obvious or that will pop up in a home inspection. Is consider getting a pre-home inspection done. I would pay like the $500 or the $600 or whatever it is, get the home inspection done, and then fix all of the items that pop up before you even list the property. That way you can diffuse any situation and you know exactly what's going on with your property. I think it will make a huge difference. It'll be cheaper for you now to address these items than having a buyer come back to you after a home inspection wanting to renegotiate. So these are items like leaky faucets, holes in the walls, loose handrails, burnt out light bulbs and smoke detectors, stains in the carpets. Anything that's like super obvious that a handyman could easily fix, it'll be cheaper now than waiting for the buyer to come back to you. Other items that are kind of annoying that always pop up in home inspections are GFCI plugs. Those like plugs located near water sources. It doesn't cost much to fix them. Like, I think like an electrician is maybe $100 an hour plus parts and labor. So not a very big job. I've had lots of deals where the buyers came back and they wanted like $1,000 off the price because of GFCI plugs when it's like $100 job. So you get really annoying things like that. You have another big one is attic hatch insulation and insulation in the attic itself. The codes have changed over time. I don't think it's very expensive to look into the insulation, but that's always popping up in home inspections. So anything that a handyman could easily do, I would consider doing it right away before it comes back to you after a home inspection. So many buyers are not that handy and they don't want to do the work, or they use it as an excuse to lower the price. So I wouldn't give them that. I'd address it right away so it doesn't come back to bite you. So the last point here is regarding decluttering and staging. I would definitely consider hiring a stager. It's actually part of our package and our team. So if you are considering selling, obviously reach out to us. We'd love to help you out. And we do hire a stager at no cost to the seller. Now, the basic idea behind staging, I mentioned it earlier, is you want to show the buyer how they can live in the home, not how you're living in the home. So that's the general idea here. So you're going to want to depersonalize the property. The buyer doesn't want to see you there, so you want to get rid of all of your personal photos, your plaques, your trophies, your religious or political items, even taxidermy, like the animals hanging from the ceiling. That might be cool. You might love that, but the next buyer might hate it, and they might not choose your home because of it. So if you can get rid of stuff like that in advance, I would definitely do so. What happens is the buyer can get distracted with all of your items and not kind of see the home for what it really is. So you want to showcase your home and on how they could live in it. So that's why you want to remove all of these items. You're going to want to get rid of any excess furniture. It just makes the home look a lot bigger. Now with furniture, we're selling the space, not the furniture. So you're going to want to position everything in such a way that the room flows. Like, it's easy to walk and see the view. It's easy to get to the fireplace. Everything along those lines. So any excess furniture, get rid of it and make sure the room flows properly. Not the easiest thing to do in the world, but if you do hire a stager, they will give you advice on this. Basically, anything that doesn't have to be there, I would consider moving it and storing it somewhere else. Subconsciously, the buyers, they get distracted by it, and it also makes the room look smaller as well. So I would definitely consider, getting rid of a lot of furniture and items if you can. In terms of closets, you're going to want to pre-pack anything if you can. And if you can move it to the garage or somewhere else, I would definitely do so. You want to be able to see like the floors and the walls in the closets. And lastly, I would take everything off the kitchen counters. Take off any kind of notes or fridge magnets, everything off the top of the fridge. you want to make it look kind of like a staged open house, if you can. Obviously, you're living in the property, but if you can do stuff like this, I think it will make a big difference when you're selling the property. So to wrap it all up, if you do all of those things, you get professional photos and measurements, you hire a good listing agent, you can definitely sell your home right now. It is still definitely a bit of a seller's market. There's not much inventory out there. So if you are thinking of selling, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help you out. The conditions right now are pretty good. You can call, text, email, or comment. I'd love to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.